Welcome, and thanks for joining me on the Ultimate 180 podcast. If you have ever felt exhausted, overwhelmed, or even trapped in your own life and wish you had a complete life makeover, then you're in the perfect place to learn how to pull an Ultimate 180 and change your life beyond all expectations. I'm your host, Kristina Walker, and today I wanted to take some time to discuss how to recover and move forward quicker when we make mistakes and go through failures in life. Mistakes and failures can be extremely frustrating and sometimes overwhelmingly embarrassing. And boy, do we excel at blaming ourselves in the process. And yet, we really can't expect to move forward into a better life for ourselves without them. Transformation just is not a straightforward, success-only kind of ride. So, what can we do to minimize the pain, recover quicker, and begin to embrace change with more confidence? Stay tuned for this episode, and I'll walk you through my favorite method that I use in many aspects of my life and my business, what I like to call the double arrow. Let's get started as we navigate change together, one degree at a time. Let's do this. How many times have you started to make a change in your life and you decide you are fully committed? You know exactly what you're going to do. You announce it to your friends, your family, your colleagues. You post it all over social media. Then you invest a bunch of time, some money, maybe even a lot of money in whatever it is, this change. And then you're going along, you're making some progress, and then maybe the progress starts to drop off a little bit. And then after a while, something happens and it does not work out. It could have been you bit off a little bit of too big of a challenge up front and tried to dive in too quickly. Or maybe you simply just got into your commitment and you just didn't like it. Whatever the reason was, it left you feeling awful. And you know those feelings like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? What am I going to say to people when they ask about it, the change? And this is so embarrassing. Why can't I make this work? I feel like a failure. Why do I even try? And the worst part is that we internalize these mistakes, these failures, like there's something wrong with us. And when we do that, our confidence goes out the window. And many times it leads us to the point where we just stop trying. Now, the good news is that I am here to offer you a new perspective on mistakes and failures. And I'm going to provide you with a tool, and yeah, that's the double arrow, that is going to help you so you don't get into those feelings of self-blame, guilt, and embarrassment. And when you eliminate those feelings, you get to recover from your failure in your mind so much quicker. And this also allows you to confidently go down the next path towards your goal and start again without all those negative feelings that used to stop you. So before I go into explaining the actual technique itself, there is something that you need to do first when this happens, when you have a mistake or a failure. In the moment, when you begin to recognize that you made a mistake, that things aren't working out quite as planned, and you feel like you failed, you have got to stop yourself immediately and congratulate yourself. And that probably sounds totally ridiculous, but let me tell you why. Because change can be scary. And that's why most people don't follow through and do it. Most people won't even try at all because it's overwhelming. The fear is overwhelming of making any sort of change. And it took courage for you to try something new. You did it. You just tried something new. Congratulations. You got to start there. You have to really start in that moment and say, I did accomplish something. You tried. It is so important. You've got to give yourself a moment to allow yourself to be congratulated for your courage, because that is where transformation starts. you have to have the courage to make that first step. And I know it might not have been as successful. It might have not have been successful on the first try, the 10th try, the 50th, the 100th try. And I know it didn't go the way you hoped, but if you're willing to put yourself first and you did something different to better your life, that's amazing. And you just went through the hardest part, the part that so many people never have the courage to do. And this is why I encourage you to begin to change that story in your head first. Congratulations to you. You are not a failure. You tried something that didn't work. Okay. But that action, that step, that business, that relationship, that career choice, it didn't work out the way you'd hoped. But that doesn't make you a failure. It was just a step in a direction that didn't get you to your ultimate goal. And when you start to take that viewpoint, instead of blaming yourself for every misstep along the way, that's when the magic happens. And that's when you can really start to transform your life, because it will bring back your power to confidently try new things until you get to a better place in life. And that's when the double arrow method really comes into play. So imagine your life, your dream life, right? Where you are now and the dream life you want to be. And imagine that as a big, huge maze. And that maze is basically completely blank to you. You don't know where to go, right? Because at the beginning of a maze, you don't know which way to go. Do you go forward, left, right? Okay. And so through life, when you try things, you are making little steps through this maze, and you get to actually turn the light on as you go along this maze. So think of it like you're taking a step. Oh, that didn't work out. You're at the end of at the end of the line, you got to turn around, go back. Okay. Turn the light on. Now you know about it. And each and every time that you step forward in your life and you try something different, you try something to get to that ultimate dream, that ultimate 180, you are turning the light on and solving one little puzzle piece, right? That's a piece of the puzzle. You know, now you've got one more data point to get you to your goal. So you might be thinking, yeah, but like it was a dead end. But that's okay. So what the double arrow method is I want you to think of every decision that you make, every step forward, everything that you did along the way towards what you were hoping to do to that goal is like an arrow. So each decision is an arrow. So you've got on this end, you have the pointy tip, right? And it's hard, it's pointy. There's all sorts of aspects, right? May not be all that good, maybe great. Depends on your viewpoint. On the other end of the arrow are the feathers, right? They're softer. There's a blunt point. And again, that might be great in some instances and maybe not on the other. And then there's all the way in between. So every time you go forward and you get a data point, oh, I didn't like that. That didn't work. Okay, well, what about that didn't you like? Well, it just wasn't for me. I wasn't having any fun. And now you can say, okay, so where did it fit on that arrow? That was like a point. Didn't feel good. I don't like that for this reason. Okay, there, you found where you were on this arrow, right? Because it's a double side. It's not always good. It's not always bad. It just is. But each decision, each action that led up to there is its own arrow. And each time you do that, you've turned the light on in a portion of that maze. So you're solving little pieces of the puzzle all the way along. So if you went into a maze and you got to a dead end and you were like, that's it, I'm a failure, and you sit there, well, you wouldn't, right? If it was a maze. But if you can think about your ultimate goal, your dream life, whatever it is you're going for, as a maze and a puzzle, then you're just gathering data along the way, right? I mean, sometimes it even ends in a loop, right? You kind of get right back where you start from. And yeah, it can be really frustrating, but it's told you something. That wasn't the right path. That path leads you right back into the loop of where you want to get out of. So you've got to start again. And think about it like this. I like to think about it like trying on clothes. So I go into a store and I grab, oh my God, look at that. That is the most fabulous shirt. I know that is going to look fabulous on me. And I go into the dressing room or I buy it online, I try it on, and I'm like, oh my God, that is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. It is terrible. And some of us like to say, oh my God, it's because I'm too fat, or I'm this, or I've got heavy arms, or it's not the truth. The fact of the matter, if you can go back a minute and think of this like an arrow, okay, you've got this article of clothing. It didn't fit well on your body right now. Okay. So get something else, do something else, buy a different piece of clothing, whatever it is, right? It really is. You have to step back and start to have this viewpoint of, let's take the emotion out of this for a second and let's figure out, did I just solve a puzzle piece? I might have solved like a whole portion of my puzzle. And it might have been, oh my God, I know I don't like any of that. Wow. Congratulations. I just figured that out. I don't have to do that ever again. And it's just as much data to find out something that you don't like as it is that you do like. And that's why I like to call it the double arrow, because that arrow for each person is going to be different where you decide you fit on it. Is that good or is that bad? It's really neither. It's something that you want to do more of or you want to do less of. And that's really it. So we put these puzzle pieces into place, and it's actually getting you closer, even though it doesn't feel like it in the moment, even though it feels embarrassing, even though it might feel like it's another mistake I made. I keep making all these mistakes. Yay! Congratulations. You just shined a light on something else you don't like, which is all a piece of this huge maze, this big puzzle that you need to solve in order to get to where you want to go. And the really cool thing is when you start to master this technique as you try new things, you know up front, you'll start to view this up front as, I'm going into this just gathering data, right? That's a very different viewpoint than, I'm putting all my hopes and dreams into this thing. And if I don't make it, then I don't know what else to do. I'm going to be a failure, right? I either fail or I'm fabulous. Like that's not really how it works. It's not a straight line. So let's not put ourselves into that emotional state. Let's take it back a notch and say, okay, this is a new opportunity. This is a new project, a new goal, and I'm going to gather data along the way. This isn't a personal failure. I am not going to be a failure if this doesn't work out. I want to know. And when you start to do that, it's less scary, it's less stressful, and you have way more confidence. Before my 180, I know I've talked about this before. I enjoy fashion, thus the clothing analogy. I've been in so many different aspects of that world over the years, in and out, from being in business, in coaching, and being an executive, and all of these things in my career. But that little fashion bug kept saying, oh, come back, come back. And I've tried everything. I've tried from retail and manufacturing. I've tried so many things. So while I was getting disgruntled in my coaching business that I've talked about, I've been doing it for 20 years, one-on-one coaching for businesses. I thought this opportunity came up and I thought, oh, it's in fashion. Maybe I'll try being a stylist for this company. That sounds fun. It sounds interesting. Okay. Now I'm not going into this time because I've tried many other things and failed. But this time, because I understood this technique so well, In fact, my husband and I sat down and we thought, okay, here are the data points that we want to discover. I mean, this might be it. This might be my thing. This might be set me right to my ultimate 180 and I'll be happily ever after, right? It could be it. That's great. But that's not where I'm going to put my energy because right now I'm like, maybe it will. That'll be great. If not, I'm going to find out some more data points because this fashion thing keeps coming at me and I don't know what it is. So I feel like I need to solve the end of that puzzle. Either that's going to work or it's not going to work. So I tried it and there were so many things I loved about it. I had an amazing experience. The whole experience was amazing, but I quickly figured out that that was not going to be my thing. And I started taking out in my head the little arrows. Okay, what part of it do I love? What part don't I love? And the part that I loved was I used to get online and I would show off different outfits and I do creative things and I would make these videos and people loved it. And they would respond to me and tell me how much they enjoyed watching me. Were they buying anything from me? Well, they were, but not from any of that. They were just enjoying the entertainment of what I was doing, which was great because guess what? That's the part that I love. That's the part of why I love doing this. It's the entertainment part. So I learned something about myself. I'm like, oh, okay. So I need to make sure I incorporate that in whatever I do next. So I'm shining little lights on things. At the same time, I'm like, wow, I make probably 50 times more per hour doing my one-on-one business coaching than I do this. And that's a big piece of my puzzle. I want it all to align. I want to make money and do something fun, right? So that piece, I don't like that so much. And that had been my experience every time I was doing in something fashion. Somehow the money part just wasn't coming. And I thought, okay, well, then this isn't it in totality. But I learned so many new things that eventually brought me here, which is so cool. And if I had turned out the light and said, that's it, I tried my last thing, I guess I'm never doing anything in fashion at all. And I'm just going to do business coaching and I'm just going to be in my business and not enjoy it. And that's just my life. Woe is me, I'm a failure. I mean, you're probably thinking, well, that's stupid. Right? And that's what other people probably think too, when they're like, oh my God, why are you beating yourself up? You're not a failure. You just found something else that didn't work. Congratulations. And that's what I'm hoping you get out of this. Let's try and take the emotion out of it from the beginning. If we step into our change, our little steps of change, if we step into it, not thinking that this is going to be a personal failure, this is going to be a personal mistake if it doesn't work out, that we are going with our flashlight and we're going into a dark maze and we're excited when we find the next light switch to turn on because we're getting somewhere. Even if it loops us back, even if it's a dead end, even if we've thought we made it all the way to the end of the puzzle and we have to go back to the beginning, it doesn't matter because we are still making headway on this puzzle. And we should be congratulating ourselves. It's exciting. You've made another step. Most people don't even do that. So next time you decide to step out and make a change and things aren't going quite right, I hope you'll stop yourself, congratulate yourself, and then check out all those arrows and see the data points that you learned. And that next step, it's going to be ready for you. It's going to be easier and it's going to be quicker. It's going to be so much quicker the next time because you'll recover and you'll recover and you'll recover and you will quickly move through that path to your ultimate 180. I really hope that that has helped you today. I hope you share with me. When you use this technique, just come on and share with me. Go to connect@ultimate180.com and email us. Email me exactly what your experience was. I want to know about your double arrow. I want to know if you congratulated yourself and how different that made you feel. I would love to hear that from you. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you'd like more information on how to incorporate any of these techniques into your ultimate 180 experience, join my VIP list on my website, ultimate180.com, and let's discover what's ultimately possible for you. All my episodes are available there on my website and also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you find your shows.